Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahana Raghunathanidam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahana Lalita Sri Vishakhanidam Scha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavane Devi Pranamami Hari Vancha Kalpatarubhyacha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Budale Srimad Bhagavatam Swami Namne Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Budale Srimad Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namne Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pachatya Desaiti Tarine Mukam Karoti Vajalam Pangam Lenghite Giri Yakripatamahamande Sri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhava Sri Chaitanyam Ishwaram. So today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 1 Chapter 10 verse number 3. So Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Srinutam Sakata Krishna Punya Sravana Kirtana Hridiyandastohi Aputrani Vidhunoti Suprasadam Nashta Prayesha Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevya Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Tada Rajastamo Bhava Kamalopadayaschye Chedayadayirana Vitham Stidam Sattve Prasidati Evam Prasanna Manaso Bhagavat Bhakti Yogada Bhagavat Tattva Vijnanam Mukta Sangasya Jayate Vidyate Hriday Grandis Chityande Sarva Samshaya Shiyande Jasya Karmani Drashtaye Vatmani Shere Krishnaya Vasudevaya Deviki Nandanaja Nandagopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Nama Namo Pankajanabhaya Namo Pankajamaline Namo Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajankriye. So let's read the verse. 1 second. Okay. Nishamya Bhishmoktamathaच्युतोक्तं Pravritta Vibramaha Sasasas Gamindra Ivajidasrayaha Parityubanda Anujanuvartitaha. One more time. Nishamya Bhishmoktamathaच्युतोक्तं Pravritta Vibramaha Sashasagamindra Ivajidasraya Parithubantam Anujanuvartita. And the meanings. Nishamya, after listening, Bhishma Uktam, what was spoken by Bhishma Deva, Atha, also Achyuta Uktam, what was spoken by the infallible Lord Krishna, Pravarta, being engaged in Vijnana, perfect knowledge, Vidhuta, completely washed Viprama, all misgivings. Shashasa, Sashasa ruled over Gam, the earth. Indra, the king of the heavenly planet. Eva, like Ajidasraya, protected by the invincible Lord. Pariti Upantam, including the seas. Anuja, the younger brothers. Anuvartita, being followed by them. So, translation Maharaja Yudhishṭhira, after being enlightened by what was spoken by Bhishma Deva and Lord Sri Krishna, the infallible, engaged himself in matters of perfect knowledge because all his misgivings were eradicated. Thus he ruled over the earth and seas and was followed by his younger brothers. So purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The king of Hastinapura, now part of New Delhi, was the emperor of the world, including the seas, up to the time of Maharaj Parishit, the grandson of Maharaj Yudhishṭhira. Maharaj Yudhishthira's younger brothers were acting as his ministers and commanders of state, and there was full cooperation between the perfectly religious brothers of the king. Maharaj Yudhishthira was the ideal king or representative of Lord Sri Krishna to rule over the kingdom of earth and was comparable to King Indra, the representative ruler of the heavenly planets. The demigods like Indra, Chandra, Surya, Varuna, and Vayu are representative kings of different planets of the universe. And similarly, Maharaj Yudhishthira was also one of them, ruling over the kingdom of the earth. Maharaj Yudhishthira was not a typically unenlightened political leader of modern democracy. Maharaj Yudhishthira was instructed by Bhishma Deva and the infallible Lord also, and therefore he had full knowledge of everything in perfection. The modern elected executive head of a state is just like a puppet because he has no kingly power. Even if he is enlightened like Maharaj Yudhishthira, he cannot do anything out of his own good will due to his constitutional position. Therefore, there are so many states over the earth quarreling because of ideological differences or other selfish motives. But a king like Maharaj Yudhishthira had no ideology of his own. He had but to follow the instructions of the infallible Lord and the Lord's representative and the authorized agent, Bhishma Deva. So it is instructed in the Shastras that one should follow the great authority and the infallible Lord without any personal motive and manufactured ideology. Therefore, it was possible for Maharaj Yudhishthira to rule the whole world, including the seas, because the principles were infallible and universally applicable to everyone. The conception of one world state can only be fulfilled if we can follow the infallible authority. An imperfect human being cannot create an ideology acceptable to everyone. Only the perfect and the infallible can create a program which is applicable at every place and can be followed by all in the world. It is the person who rules and not the impersonal government. If the person is perfect, the government is perfect. If the person is a fool, the government is a fool's paradise. That is the law of nature. There are so many stories of imperfect kings or executive heads. Therefore, the executive head must be a trained person like Maharaj Yudhishthira, and he must have the full autocratic power to rule over the world. The conception of a world state can take shape only under the regime of a perfect king like Maharaja Yudhishṭhira. The world was happy in those days because there were kings like Maharaja Yudhishṭhira to rule over the world. So it's kind of a long purport. And Srila Prabhupada is saying that Maharaja Yudhishthira kingdom was nothing, nothing like today's democratic state as we know. He was ruling over the entire world because at that time Bharatavarsha was just one kingdom, and it is said, bound by the over the seas, bound by the seas, and that means by the great oceans, and it extended all the way unto the oceans, and he was the ruler of the land and the seas. So here in the Maharaja Yudhishṭhira, he was he took the instructions from Bhishma Dev, the great authority. After Lord Krishna, Bhishma Dev is a great authority because he is a Mahajana. And we have just heard recently how Bhishma Dev gave the instructions to Maharaja Yudhishṭhira, and therefore he was pacified. He was not pacified by Lord Krishna speaking to him, Yudhishthira Maharaj, because he had the feeling that, oh, so many people, millions have been killed only for my enthronement, only to put me on the throne. All my relatives, they are now no more. He was overwhelmed by grief. And Krishna tried to pacify him, but he was not pacified. Therefore, Krishna gave the opportunity for his great devotee, Bhishma Dev, to instruct him. And then he accompanied the Pandavas to Yudhishthira, where Bhishma Dev was lying on his bed of arrows, waiting for his last moment. And there Yudhishthira Maharaj received all the instructions about what is the kingly duties, what is the womanly duties, and what are the Varnashrama dharma, everything. He was completely, and in that condition, Bhishma gave all the instructions that Maharaj Yudhishthira was pacified to hear, and then all his misgivings were eradicated, and now he's taken the throne. And also he was instructed by Bhishmoktam and Achyutoktam by the instructions of Lord Krishna. So he doesn't need to look anywhere because the Supreme Lord is there to instruct him, and his great devotee Bhishma Dev is there to instruct him. So he is completely equipped with a Vijnana Vidhuta Vibhrama. That is, all his confusion is erased now. He is perfectly situated in knowledge. So I listened to Srila Prabhupada's lecture on Prabhupada Vani, and Srila Prabhupada is talking about the democracies at that time. It was President Nixon's time, and he is saying, look at your president. Now the Watergate scandal was going on. So he's saying, without any hesitation, these are the kind of people who are ruling nowadays. But look at Yudhishthira Maharaj's position. He's perfectly equipped with the right knowledge. So others are just, it was a very great idea when the democracy started, government of the people, by the people, for the people. But what are the people who are they are abodha jata, that is, they are born in ignorance. So they don't have any proper knowledge, and their leaders also do not have any proper knowledge. So, and then the process itself has become so corrupt because money can buy votes, and all kinds of nepotism and sycophants elect somebody, and then there is quarrel between the opposite sides, as we are seeing now also. Every government is associated with a scandal, or they last a very short period of time, and they give no peace of mind to the rulers or to the people. So whereas Maharaja Yudhishṭhira, he is as yesterday Sajit Sudha Prabhu, we heard him read, he is a Dharma Pradham Varishta. That is, he is the greatest king to represent the Dharma of the king who sat on the throne. So, and he is protected by, and he's protected by his not only by his brothers, the great Bhima, Arjuna, they are generals for him. So it reminds us of Lord Ramachandra. Ramachandra, when he took the throne, he was supported by his brothers, Bharata, Shatrughna, and they were all his surrendered servants. Like that, Yudhiṣṭhira Maharaj is also served by his brothers Bhishma, Arjuna, and so on. So, and then Achyuta, the infallible Lord. So we can see how the Lord is the protector of the devotees. That is his mercy towards his devotees is unfailing. So Arjuna is saying in the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Senayor Upayor Mathe Ratham Stave Me Achyuta. So he's calling him Achyuta, not Krishna. He could have called him Krishna, but he's calling him Achyuta, the infallible one. Now, I have to order you, but you are the infallible one. So please kindly place my chariot between the two armies. And then he is Achyuta because he is never he never falls down into illusion. Nothing can the Maya cannot ever affect him. Like Bhishma Dev is commenting in the Rajasuya sacrifice. What, I am no brahmachari. Lord Krishna is the greatest brahmachari because I, being brahmachari, avoid contact with women. Whereas Lord Krishna, he was having his pastimes in Vrindavana, surrounded by so many young girls, young beautiful girls, but he is not agitated. His mind is not agitated by sexual desire. So he is the greatest brahmachari. And then we also know that as Narayana Rishi, Indra, Lord Indra sent the girls of heaven to tempt Narayana Rishi. But then he was not agitated by seeing those beauties. In fact, he showed Indra many more beautiful women, and that he had in his control. And then he even gifted Urvashi to Indra, to Indra's representative, and to Kamadeva, and said, "Take her to and gift her to Indra, Lord Indra." So such is the Lord's pastimes. He is always the infallible Lord in protecting his devotees. Because in the battlefield, Arjuna was about to be killed by Bhishma Dev, because Bhishma had promised the previous day, tomorrow I will kill Arjuna. or you will have to break your promise, Krishna. So when Arjuna's chariot was broken and he has fallen down, Krishna take the wheel of the chariot and come to attack, run to attack Bhishma Dev. So that way he protects the promise of his devotee, and he at the cost of breaking his own promise, because for the devotee Krishna is there in any circumstance, every circumstance, protecting him. So Arjuna later tells, because of the Lord's protection, not even a hair on my body was destroyed, or yeah, so I did not suffer any injuries or anything in the war. So that is why the Lord is called infallible. And then also Krishna asked Arjuna to declare, Pradijnanihi Kaunteya na me bhakta pranasyati. That is, he could have declared himself, my devotee will never perish. But since for the devotee he is apt to break his promise sometimes, he is making Arjuna declare, so that it will, it will be, that will be an unbroken promise, because Krishna is afraid he may have to break the promise sometimes for his devotees. So that is why the Lord is called the Achyuta, the infallible one. So having taken their instructions and having eradicated, that is Vijnana, Vidhuta Vibhrama, Maharaja Yudhishṭhira is taking the throne, just like a Lord Indra is ruling over the heavenly planets. And now Lord Indra's authority is very unquestionable. I mean, he is the king of the heavenly planets. Similarly, now Yudhishṭhira Maharaj has taken his throne on the planet of Earth. It is unquestionable authority, because he is because he is representing dharma. There is his authority is not questionable, because our constitution, our laws, everything, it is all, after all, not on the absolute platform. So they can come under attack by, and there is always protesters going on, whatever. So nowadays it has become, even that democracy has come to a stall. That was not the case, because the king had absolute authority. So he is ruling over the planet, which is and the seas, the kingdom and the seas, and he is seated as though Indra on his throne. So this is this is the beginning of the Kuru dynasty. The Lord is pleased to have his representative, the devotee, the representative of the Kuru dynasty, take over the kingdom after the battle. And then okay, that then Srila Prabhupada is saying in the purport, that is his brothers also, the perfectly religious brothers of the king. Maharaja Yudhishṭhira was the ideal king or representative of Lord Sri Krishna to rule over the kingdom of earth, and was comparable to King Indra, the representative ruler of the heavenly planets. The demigods who are ruling their planets, like Indra, Chandra, and Surya, Vayu, they are all devotees of the Lord. So they are always supported by the Lord. And similarly, Maharaja Yudhishthira's position was safe. And then he had performed so many Rajasuya sacrifice, as we have read, to ensure that there is no nobody contesting his supremacy in the whole world. And uh, uh, so Srila Prabhupada is saying it is the Brahmanical culture and culture of the Varnashrama system which can ensure the proper government and happiness, peace and prosperity for all. That is the kings of those days. They were not only royal authorities; they were saintly personalities, Rajarshis. As Bhagavan says in Bhagavad Gita, that is they are the Rajarshi Vidu. That I forget the verse. So they were all very saintly kings, and only at the time of by the time it was King or Parishit Maharaj, this one came. Then it was already split. I mean, the kingdom was split. Maharaja Yudhishṭhira was the last ruler who was the one world, one world kingdom. That was the last ruler who ruled that one. And we see that it is like in King Parishit's conversation, which is going to come up with with Dharma the bull, and the cow, earth coming as the cow. We can see as if it the very next day of after Lord Krishna left, how the age of Kali has set in, and the bulls, the Dharma's 3 legs are already broken. And so Maharaj Parishit is saying, so how can you, he's about to kill the personality of Kali, and he's saying, how can you allow this to, how can I allow this to happen? My ancestors ruled this kingdom, and they took care of it. There was no lamentation, there was no mistreating of any helpless creatures. So he is about to kill Kali in that scene, like that. So this was the rule of earlier days, and Maharaja Yudhishṭhira is representing Lord Krishna himself and Dharma. So I will stop here. Please correct me if I made some mistakes, and please have your comments and add. Thank you very much for being here. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Prabhupada. Please accept my humble obeisances to all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you. Thank you very much for beautifully putting this whole thing, Mataji. You covered a very a huge range of topics. Thank you so much for putting it. As usual, I like to steer some conversation. So my question, Mataji, what I was thinking is, we see a lot in, Srila Prabhupada mentioned about the rulers of the current world and whatnot, and how they're not properly trained or not. I was just thinking, right? Definitely at a macro level, see that. I think my thought was going to is, where it was going to is, now as subjects of the ruler, right? There should have been some faith, consciousness, or whatnot in the ruler itself, right? Meaning, either if it was somebody great like Yudhiṣṭhira Maharaj, It would be wonderful, but if somebody was not as great as Yudhiṣṭhira Maharaj, they had a few shortcomings. And we often see that happen, like in different instances, right? A king doing mistakes and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
I was wondering, what was the consciousness of the subjects, or their faith in the system itself, right? The reason why I ask is, yes, as devotees of Krishna, as we read in purports, yes, this varnashram dharma is not there and whatnot at a macro level, but at a micro level, for example, Srila Prabhupada gave us a society, he gave us a governing body commission, he gave us a management system. But as subjects, we also tend to complain, that person is not doing like this person is not doing like that, even though the authority was given to them.
Yes.
What was the consciousness of the subjects that we should be imbibing? If I understand, if you got my question.
I think what I understand is Srila Prabhupada said that if you cooperate if you care for me, you cooperate. That is spirit of cooperation. That is what is going to strengthen our institution. So as much as possible, to keep aside the differences and cooperate in in executing whatever tasks need to be done. That was his advice to all the followers. And in ISKCON, actually, I believe the way ISKCON has grown over the so many years, and even after Srila Prabhupada's departure, I think it speaks a great deal because all the devotees are gaining this education, and that is this the person who sits on the throne, or who leads the government, if he is in a bodily conception of knowledge, and then the people who are really ruling, he is ruling also in that way, then they have no education, they have no training. So that is why there is the in the world, the system, all the systems that they are inventing, like United Nations, and everywhere they are they are failing because they do not have proper education. Whereas in ISKCON, all the devotees have the basic education based on Bhagavad Gita, studying Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. And so nobody is, here people are, outside people are, they want to be in power, the power and the glare. That is what is, pushing them. Now they are not ever thinking what they can give for the country. We are not seeing such rulers. We always see so many scandals unfolding after one ruler leaves, or so many people ending up in jail. So that shows the absolute lack of education. So it is spiritual education only which can, that can improve the general situation. This is my understanding, Prabhu. Sorry, I may not have answered your question to the point.
No, Mataji, I think you wonderfully said that cooperative spirit. Like cooperating with the authority, cooperating. I think that's what should be the consciousness of the subjects.
Yes.
Have faith in the system. I think you put it nice. But on top of it, I think the icing was you added that punchline that as a ruler, just if we think about on the bodily platform, the biggest difference is not just thinking on the bodily platform, but thinking beyond the bodily platform and ruling the subjects.
Yes.
That was also icing on the cake. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Krishna. So if no more questions, Linkaraj Prabhu, you can end the session.
Thank you, Mataji.
And thank you all very much. Vancha kalpatarubhya cha kripa sindhubhya vaja patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Srila Prabhupada ki